Shalom, my name is Gabe Greenberg. Looking forward to learning with you the commentary of the Netziv on the weekly Torah portion. This week we are going to be studying Parshat Korach, and we'll be analyzing Numbers chapter 16, verses 1 and 2 and 3, really. This is the opening of the Korach story, the story of the most famous rebellion in the Torah against the leadership of Moshe and Aaron. And we have Korach, who leads the way, followed closely by Datan and Aviran. But then behind them or with them or supporting them are 250 leaders of the Israelite people, and that's really what we're going to be focusing on right now. So we'll read the second verse together. This is chapter 16, verse 2 of the book of Bamidbar, Numbers. Vayakumu lifnei Moshe, and they, meaning Korach and Datan and Aviram, Vayakumu lifnei Moshe, they stood in front of Moshe. Va anashim mibnei Yisrael, chamishim u'matayim, and 250 other folks, Israelite people. Who were these people? Nesiei Eda, they were leaders of the congregation. Kriei Moed, which there's a bit of a discussion about how to translate that phrase of Kriei Moed. We'll translate it here following the Netziv as Sheyashvu ad ko im Moshe ve'Aaron b'chol Moed. So they are folks who were used to being called to the sort of gathering or council of leadership of the community. So they were familiar with Moshe and Aaron, having spent time with them in a leadership capacity. And lastly, the verse describes them as Anshe Shem, literally men or people of name. We'll translate it as people of renown. They were well known to the congregation. So you've got these 250 people. They were leaders of the congregation. They were known to Moshe and Aaron, and they knew Moshe and Aaron, and they knew their leadership style, and they themselves were well known to everyone. They were men of renown. The question that the Netziv is going to ask and is going to deal with is, how could it be that these 250 people were enticed to follow the rebellion of Korach and Datan and Aviran? The Netziv goes into great length to describe the motivations of Korach as well as that of Datan and Aviram, and we're going to jump in to sort of the middle of his discussion, where he gets into specifically that of the 250 followers. What was their motivations? Why did they bring the charge against Moshe and Aaron? The next line is going to be that they say to Moshe and Aaron that you've taken too much authority over us. Madua titnasu al kahal Hashem. Why have you exalted yourselves over and above the rest of the Israelite people? So the Netziv is going to explore how these 250 people could have come to take part in this claim. So here we go. V'hodia hakatuv ad kama higia koach divrei nirgan shel Korach Datan v'Aviram. The verse goes out of its way to describe the great strength of the divrei nirgan, the quarrelsome or querulous words of Korach, Datan, and Aviram, ad shalakku lev anshe maila halalu, such that these great people could be ensconced and enticed and enveloped in these words of these antagonistic words and accusations. Shemitzad hasvara lo hayu ru'uim levoli de midazu lemoshe ve'Aaron umadua tinasu al kahal Hashem. So the Netziv says that really, intuitively and logically, we would have thought that these 250 leaders would not have become involved in this claim, this rebellious claim against Moshe and Aaron, where they would accuse Moshe and Aaron of exalting themselves over the people. Why? And now he's going to go through the three terms that the verse uses and say why each of those terms shows us or illustrates another aspect of these 250 leaders, all of which would have predisposed us to thinking that they would not have taken part in this rebellion. So what are the three phrases? The first was Nesiei Eda. They were leaders of the community, of the congregation. And so the Netziv says, V'chol manhig yodea she'ef shar lahanhig et ador bli ezu hitnasut. Any leader knows that in leading a community, or in this case, a whole generation of people, that it's impossible to take on such a leadership role without ipso facto, without some level of exalting, of being above the congregation. V'im kain lo haya lehem lishpot et Moshe va'Aaron lemitnasim shelo l'shem shemayim. So they should not, these 250 people should have known not to accuse and to judge Moshe and Aaron for doing this, because they as leaders know that it's impossible to lead without some form of authoritarian, of imposing authority on those that you are leading. So the fact that they were leaders of the generation means they shouldn't have done this. Number two, they were also Kri'ei Moed. They were people who had been called up to the place of gathering along with Moshe and Aaron. And so why does that matter? Yashvu Yachdav Imam. They had sat with Moshe and Aaron. V'ra'u Rov Anavut Notam. V'halichot Derech Eretz Shelahem. Shelo B'hitnasut Yetera. So, which means they saw the great humility and the derech eretz, which means the fact that Moshe and Aaron were led with humility, and they were with menschlichkeit, they were mensches, they were good people, they were humble, and none of their leadership was done in a way of trying to exert greater authority than was needed or necessary. So those are two reasons they should have known better. And thirdly, mitzad shahayu anshe shem, the fact that they were these men of renown. Ve'ein ish efrati motze pe v'lashon lagid l'misha gadol memenu madua tinasu afilu im hayakein. This is an interesting, I think this is the least compelling of the three reasons that Netziv brings. He says that people of anshe shem, people of great renown, which he seems to be translating here, people of sort of refined, ethical, and sort of manners, people of manners. And he says people of manners would not cast aspersions on someone greater than them to claim that they were exalting themselves, even if it were true. So I don't buy this one as much. Then Netziv says that it's not someone of high moral or ethical, how they were raised or in certain type of manners, would not do such a thing. Okay. V'zeu midat pachotei erech. This is sort of something of a low person would do. Vadai lo haya ra'ui laharher achar rabban shel Yisrael lochiachotam. You would certainly never castigate the leaders of the generation. Imlo ba'avera barura kashemesh asher al zeh mitzvah lochiach afilo tamid l'rav. He says there's always room to castigate or to rebuke someone. It doesn't matter if they're on the highest level, the highest strata. Even a student can do this to their rabbi if someone of a higher level than you was clearly violating a mitzvah, like it's as clear as the sun. Okay, but anyway, here the Netziv says, so there's these three reasons why what we know about these 250 leaders that should have compelled them not to take part in this quarrel, not to take part in this rebellion, joining Datan and Aviram in Korach's rebellion. So why did they? Given all these reasons that they shouldn't have. Here now I think the Netziv says such a beautiful, profound, and so true in our own era thing. Aval, kol kach gavar pitui anshe nirgan elu. Such was the strength of the enticement of these querulous words and these querulous people, ad shenishka hamon haminiyut b'toch yam devreihem. So strong was the enticement of Korach, Datan, and Aviram that all of the various reasons that the 250 leaders had for not joining, all of the reasons that they would have withheld were drowned within the sea of the querulous words, of the words of enticement and rebellion. This is the power of argument. This is the power of trying to accuse and shout down those that you disagree with, is that you create an environment and an atmosphere that causes others, even if they know that they really shouldn't participate, you create a sea, you create an ocean of rebellion and foment, and it drowns the reasons that others might have not to get involved, such that they'll participate in something, or they'll participate in a way in an argument that they wish, or they know that on some level they shouldn't participate generally, or they certainly shouldn't do it in a certain way, but they do anyways. So he uses this beautiful metaphor that everyone's reasons or their better judgment drowned in the sea of quarrelsome words. So he uses this one metaphor of an ocean, and now he adds a parenthesis, and he's going to use another metaphor, which is that of fire. Vahainu, and we know, shenimshal nezek hamachloket lenezek esh. We know that the damage of disagreement, of argument, is compared to the damage of fire. Kamosh, as I've said elsewhere, ukiyadua halashon eish hamachloket, and there's a well-known phrase, the fire of disagreement, the fire of argument, eish hamachloket. So what do we do with this? Lilamed, this teaches us, ki kamosha nezek eish ita b'bava kama. It's stated in the Gemara in Bava Kama, in the first chapter, that the damage that's caused by fire, muedet lechol bein shara'uila bein she'eno ra'uila. Fire damages that which it is sort of is relevant for it to damage, like wood in a fire pit. You add kindling, so fire will eat that. But also fire will destroy that which it's not supposed to destroy. Kach machloket osed dvarim she'enam ru'uyim mitzad hesechel. So too, this is so profound, the fire of arguments will consume that which it should consume and is supposed to, namely maybe the willing participants in an argument, but it will also ultimately grow outside of that argument if it's allowed to, and will consume that which it really shouldn't have, and you really sort of ostensibly or initially don't want it to. V'kolet anashim ikarim she'enam ra'uyim lakach, and it will engulf and absorb people, holy people, who really aren't sort of ra'uyim lakach. It's not in their nature to be affected by the fire of machloket, the fire of arguments and disagreement, but that's the nature of machloket, is that it grows, it encompasses, it engulfs, it inflames that which is greater than you planned for it to do initially, if given the opportunity. Such a, I think, on point and really relevant to our contemporary political and societal moment, where people, especially on social media, but it's not limited to that. Of course, this takes place in face-to-face in communities all the time. People who generally in the past could find area to agree on or to disagree constructively, increasingly can't do that, can't find the room to do that. And the fire of arguments, specifically political and cultural arguments, engulf them, engulf others who normally would not be drawn into this, are drawn in. And this is just what happened to the 250 Anshe Shem, the Kriye Moed. These leaders of the generation were brought into this argument, though really from themselves they knew that they shouldn't be. They're not really predisposed to be, based on their history and their leadership and their ethical standing. But that is the power of Eish HaMachloket, the fire of disagreement and arguments. We have to contain it lest it consume and engulf us all. Very insightful, poignant, and relevant reading from the Netziv this week on Parshat Korach. Always a pleasure to learn with you, and look forward to more next week. Be well.